No, I actually like Caitlyn, and I'm just being
Right.
real and truthful. She has brought millions. I wouldn't be surprised if it's billions of eyes onto the W and onto women's sport.
Although Sophie Cunningham has never been one to hold back, her most recent disclosure regarding Caitlyn Clark is shocking the WNBA. You also need to keep in mind that if it weren't for the WNBA by now, she might be playing. Put an end to the rumors that you're leaving or going abroad. Sophie simply provided an honest explanation that goes beyond any report on injuries. What she revealed highlights the unrelenting pressure, unrealistic expectations, and harsh realities that the league's top player must deal with. This is about survival, not excitement. Take a seat as we explore Sophie's startling revelation and its implications. The voice that won't shut up. Sophie Cunningham has taken the more difficult route in a league where being silent is frequently rewarded and being honest has a cost. Sophie has established herself as the WNBA's most unvarnished truth-teller, while the majority of players adhere to prepared responses and cautious PR spin. And she is actually footing the bill. She was penalized thousands of dollars by the league in 2024 alone for stating out loud what many players only mumble behind closed doors. It all began with a single comment on a TikTok post criticizing dubious officiating, which took $500 out of her paycheck. Or is it sluggish? Perhaps it's pointless. She then lost an additional $1,500 due to a podcast piece that revealed contradictory calls. Will I be penalized by the WNBA? No, you were fined for the first episode. I was fined $1,500. What? I ask. This is only the beginning, I think. I mean, are you serious? Furthermore, the punishment amount was not even revealed when she dared to accuse the league of open favoritism. In the hopes that the message was obvious, they simply smacked her with another fine and moved on. Quit talking and go play. Sophie, however, won't participate in that game. The reason she poses such a threat to the current quo is because she never stops talking. Consider it. The annual salary range for WNBA players is approximately $64,000 to $242,000. A $1,500 punishment is comparable to losing 2 weeks' rent or a portion of their off-season salary for many athletes. Almost anyone would be silenced by such a monetary penalty. Nevertheless, Sophie continues to persevere, endure setbacks, and inform supporters of the true state of affairs within the league. She is no longer just another athlete expressing annoyance following a difficult game because of this. She has emerged as the league's unofficial whistleblower, a player prepared to face penalties, criticism, and possible career setbacks in order to expose the truth. And the reason her voice is so significant is because of her reputation. Fans are aware that Sophie's words are not merely conjecture or a desperate attempt to gain attention. This is a first-hand account from a person who works in the grind. Her choice to continue speaking up despite the consequences lays the groundwork for everything that comes after. This is the reason her remarks regarding Caitlyn Clark are so significant. Sophie isn't making up a story. She's bringing to light difficult facts that the league would prefer to keep hidden. It is impossible to ignore her voice because of this. Was Sophie alluding to unspoken pressure then? Or claiming that Clark is being held back by the league? Avoid blinking. Everything is altered by the response. The revelation regarding Caitlyn Clark. The most important question surrounding the WNBA has remained the same for weeks. When will Caitlyn Clark return? In an effort to get a specific timetable, reporters have questioned league officials, coaches, and players. Every day, fans skim through updates in search of clarification. However, they have been given ambiguous statements rather than precise replies. We'll see next week. Day by day. There is currently no update. Only conjecture has been stoked by the silence. Then, on her podcast, Sophie Cunningham destroyed it. She said one line that instantly altered the topic, without any drama or build-up. If it weren't for the WNBA, she may be playing. You also need to keep in mind that if it weren't for the WNBA by now, she might be playing. The impact of their statements was like a thunderclap. They weren't coming from an outsider speculating from the sidelines or a fan on social media. They originated from a member of the league who is familiar with the harsh realities of what it takes to compete at this level. Sophie's revelation was more than unexpected to Caitlyn Clark's millions of followers. It was concerning. Consider what Sophie said. This goes beyond Caitlyn's need for additional time to heal from an accident. It has to do with the setting she is attempting to return to. Sophie was really clear. It's not a sign of weakness or lack of toughness that Caitlyn is absent. It has to do with the WNBA's harsh standards. Caitlyn was outstanding at Iowa. She sold out. Venues, attracted record crowds, and raised TV ratings to all-time highs as the face of college basketball. She was a generational talent due to her range, vision, and ability to change games on her own. However, Sophie disclosed that those achievements don't always translate to the WNBA. You can't just be good here. You must be perfect. Additionally, the league will devour you if you are not prepared on a physical, mental, and competitive level. That was the shocking revelation. Sophie wasn't disparaging Caitlyn's abilities. Most people didn't want to hear the truth that she was revealing. Even a superstar like Caitlyn Clark needs more time to adjust to the pressure of the WNBA. It's a survival issue rather than an emotional one. Sophie emphasized how harsh this league has gotten by pointing out that Caitlyn could already be playing somewhere else. Caitlyn may already be on the court, wowing spectators, whether she's abroad or even back in college. But in this case, the demands are so high that a hasty return could endanger not just her season but her career as a whole. Sophie's remarks struck with such intensity because of this. Not only was she providing fans with updates, but she was also raising awareness of a league that may be too harsh even for its most talented players. What chance does anyone else have, though, if the WNBA is thus harsh on a generational talent like Caitlyn? To find out, keep watching. The WNBA's brutal standard. Sophie Cunningham wasn't lying when she suggested that Caitlyn Clark might be playing if it weren't in the WNBA. She was drawing attention to a reality that athletes experience on a nightly basis, but that most fans only see on the surface. The WNBA is a whole different world from college basketball, not just a step up. Furthermore, good is insufficient in our cosmos. Caitlyn Clark was unbeatable at Iowa. She was unstoppable against college defenses because of her skill, range, and vision. However, the defenders in the WNBA are more aggressively physical, faster, and stronger. Every athlete on the court used to be the top players in her program. Every slot on the roster belongs to someone who fought their way through years of fierce competition in order to make it. And Sophie put plainly, you can't just be talented at this level. You must be perfect. Fans were taken aback by her description of the league. WNBA games can felt more like rugby to Sophie than basketball. There is continuous touch. The blows are more forceful. Players freely discuss how they need armor to get through a season. Additionally, officials allow significantly more contact than fans are aware of, fostering an atmosphere where toughness is required. It is required. Imagine returning to that kind of stage following an injury. Stars are cautiously reintroduced in the majority of leagues, with time limits and more referee protection. However, there is very little room for error in the WNBA. A comeback can be stopped before it starts by a single error, a single hesitation, and the physicality of the league. Sophie was exposing that harsh standard. Caitlyn may already be back on the floor overseas. She would most likely be playing by now if she were in college. However, rushing back in the WNBA has much greater danger than a few poor outings. Re-injury, a decline in self-esteem, or even professional failures could result from it. Here's the crucial information. Caitlyn wasn't being called soft by Sophie. The exact opposite. She clarified that there is no doubt about Caitlyn's tenacity and work ethic. She was drawing attention to the extreme nature of the WNBA. The league is at its deepest point ever. The competition is intense from the starting five to the final bench position. No easy matchup or weak link exists. Every player has the ability to reveal even the tiniest vulnerability, and every possession is a war. Sophie was referring to this same truth when she mentioned that Caitlyn's absence isn't only about healing. Caitlyn's lack of heart is the reason she isn't sitting out. Because anything less than 100% preparedness is a surefire formula for disaster in the modern WNBA, she is sitting out. The league requires that players arrive completely prepared or risk getting swallowed whole. It doesn't give them time to settle into their rhythm. And Sophie's bombshell revolves around it. Caitlyn's predicament is a reflection of the league's development rather than merely a personal hardship. Even generational stars now need extra time to thrive in the fiercely competitive, physically demanding, and merciless WNBA. It's a harsh standard. Furthermore, it might not even be sustainable, as Sophie suggested. The two-tier system and partiality. Sophie Cunningham has never been the kind that bites her tongue. Furthermore, her criticism of the WNBA was motivated by irritation with what she perceived as a risky pattern rather than resentment. For her, the problem wasn't so much the demanding requirements of the league as it was the unequal application of those requirements. She contended that although some players received protection and cushioning, others were forced to suffer unrelenting physical abuse without assistance from officials. She described it as a two-tier structure. The most obvious instance was when JCS Sheldon drove into Caitlyn Clark and shot her in the face during a heated match. It was blatant, careless, and had the potential to marginalize Clark once more. However, the officials reduced it to tannintitu after reviewing it. A blatant one, the kind of penalty more appropriate for a negligent bump than a potentially harmful blow. Shortly after, Marina McBride used both hands to shove Clark, causing her to fall to the floor. Just a shove, no attempt at the ball, no pretense of a basketball move. And the answer? No ejection, no major repercussions. The message was very obvious when crew chief Ashley Gloss defended the decision, saying it didn't qualify for an ejection. Clark was by herself. That inaction, was just what Sophie had long warned against. By speaking out loud about what players and spectators witnessed, she had already jeopardized her finances and reputation. She talked about how officiating tainted games on her podcast, describing encounters in which certain stars appeared to be shielded from harm while others suffered little respite. She gave the example of Paige Buchers, remembering a night when whistles seemed to follow her everywhere. Sophie said that you were literally unable to touch her. It wasn't resentment of Paige's skill. That was respected by Sophie. Fairness and the legitimacy of a league that professed to maintain integrity but openly displayed partiality were at issue. It was hard to overlook the disparity in Caitlyn Clark's situation. The rookie wasn't just any athlete. The league was depending on her to draw in new supporters. She was the one packing arenas, and announcers couldn't stop gushing about her. However, she was thrown into the fire rather than being protected to assist her transition into the most difficult phase of her career. Every bump, shove, and no-call all contributed to her introduction. Seeing that happen in real time was the tipping point for Sophie. Sophie stood up late in that same game after witnessing Clark take blow after punch. Cunningham pulled Sheldon down as she attempted a layup. Intentional and unrepentant. It was a statement rather than a basketball play. She and her teammates would defend their star if the officials refused. She didn't back down or act any differently after the last buzzer. She acknowledged what everyone was previously aware of. This was retaliation. This was the result of years of the league remaining silent and years of officials overlooking risky hits. Sophie's actions went beyond simple revenge against a particular performance. It served as a warning to the system. However, why did quiet on the court feel much louder than retaliation? Continue to observe. For all the commotion around Caitlyn Clark's absence, there was silence on her injury. Fans were far more shocked by Sophie Cunningham's revelation than by her remarks regarding physicality or partiality. In reality, nobody is aware of what is happening. Not the reporters, not the fans, and, surprisingly, not even her own teammates. Sophie openly acknowledged, "I'm not holding out any information," on her show. "I simply have no idea." Take a moment to consider that. Transparency is unavoidable when a star player gets injured in practically every other professional league. The NBA publishes thorough reports on LeBron James' injuries. Every day, the NFL provides updates on quarterbacks such as Patrick Mahomes. Fans are given a timeline, no matter how ambiguous, even in college athletics. However, Caitlyn Clark has been the subject of a deafening silence in the WNBA. The recuperation of a single player is not the only issue. Caitlyn isn't your typical rookie. She's the reason arenas packed out, TV ratings skyrocketed, and mainstream media at last began to take women's basketball seriously. Her presence is fundamental as well as useful. Half of the league's momentum seems to have vanished overnight without her. Nevertheless, the public updates continue to be incredibly ambiguous on a daily basis. There is currently no update. Next week, we'll see. That is not clarity. Deflection is what it is. And what many had previously believed was confirmed by Sophie's confession. The league is in charge of the story, purposefully leaving Caitlyn's status ambiguous.
Why?
That's the question that's trending on social media. Is Caitlyn's privacy being protected by the silence? Is it an effort to keep networks and sponsors from becoming alarmed? Or does it fit into a more complex pattern? The same one that penalizes players for voicing their opinions, conceals inconsistent officiating, and may now be hiding the truth about its biggest star. For whatever reason, Caitlyn finds herself in a difficult situation as a result of this blackout. Rumors quickly fill the void in the absence of official updates. On the internet, fans conjecture endlessly. Is she having greater difficulties than we've been informed? Is she being held back or hurried? Is this a health issue or something more significant? If even Sophie, Caitlyn's opponent, classmate, and fellow WNBA insider, are unable to obtain answers, then this is where Sophie's honesty truly shines. What precisely is being concealed, then? For Sophie, acknowledging her ignorance was more than a casual remark. It was proof of something more significant, that there is no oversight in the league's silence. It's an option. And it's one that makes Caitlyn Clark battle not just a recuperation but also the burden of ongoing rumors, fan rumors, and more significant queries. Rumors always try to fill the void left by a lack of official updates. And Caitlyn Clark is experiencing precisely that. Fans are frantically searching for answers due to the WNBA's silence, and online conjecture is getting louder every day. As you browse social media, you'll notice recurring themes. Issues that extend much beyond a minor injury to the knee or ankle. Some fans worry that this isn't just any bad luck. They contend that Caitlyn's history of injuries is directly related to the way the league handles her on the court. They claim she is being beaten every night without regular officiating protection, which is putting her at risk for long-term issues. It was succinctly summed up in one widely shared comment. If the league continues to allow people to foul her in every game, this will simply be her career. Others adopt a different stance, blaming the WNBA directly. Why does every injury update sound the same, they wonder? Day by day, no medical report, no timeline. Press conferences, in-depth analyses, and even investigative coverage are sparked by uncertainties in other leagues. It raises suspicions in the WNBA. Does the league have anything to conceal? Are officials purposefully evasive to preserve their reputation? Then there are the rumors about other options, which get louder every week. Supporters have observed that international leagues frequently provide their stars better circumstances. Players in Europe and Asia are paid more, have more organized recuperation regimens, and, ironically, have greater access to injury information. Additionally, these theories are not only fringe. In actuality, scores of WNBA players have already chosen that course, splitting their time or quitting entirely due to the league's unsustainable financial and physical demands. The conjecture is evident to Caitlyn. Would she be able to do the same one day? Could the most significant rookie in the league, the driving force behind its recent rise in popularity, decide she would be better suited elsewhere? No one is claiming that it will occur tomorrow. However, it is concerning that supporters are even posing the topic. What makes this conjecture risky for the WNBA is as follows. It's not merely fantastical fan fiction. Sophie Cunningham affirms these worries each time she speaks up. She has stated unequivocally that if this were a different league, Caitlyn might already be playing. She acknowledged that even she is unaware of Caitlyn's rehabilitation schedule and revealed that favoritism influences how games are called. To put it another way, Sophie is not only encouraging the rumors but also giving them legitimacy, which is the worst problem. This is about trust, not just Caitlyn Clark missing a few games. The WNBA is facing a credibility dilemma in addition to an injury catastrophe if players continue to confirm fans' worst fears and fans begin to suspect the league is concealing the facts. Furthermore, Damage of that nature does not recover over time. What would happen if the league's greatest concern wasn't injuries, but rather a decline in trust? Keep an eye out. The future of the league and Sophie's legacy. Caitlyn Clark's injury is not the only thing at the core of this whole maelstrom. The player who wouldn't keep quiet is Sophie Cunningham. Sophie made the decision to jeopardize her income, reputation, and potentially her standing with the WNBA in order to speak the truth in a league where doing so may cost her thousands of dollars. Consider that. Each fine served as a warning to keep her silent. But she persisted. She acknowledged that the league